5 minutes past the top of the hour, that is 8 a.m. Good morning. Once again, thank you so much for being with us on UBC TV. This is Good Morning Uganda Agenda, and I'm Robert Chirabo. Well, it's kind of sunny, though it was a fairly cold morning with some drizzles and rainfall somewhere there, but of course with Molen Kenyana, you're rest assured that you have the right information on how the day is going to be. So that is one of the reasons why you shouldn't miss Good Morning Uganda. This morning, we are going to be looking at the national budget. We want to look at the national budget for financial year 2023, 2024, and sector allocations. Now, what does this mean? Many of you have been hearing of cuts here and there. Many of you have heard that, hey, our budget increased, and now we are going to be looking at 52.73 trillion away from 48.13 trillion. That was for the financial year 2022-2023. It is an increment there of about 9.5%. But very important to note is how has this budget been dissected? How have different institutions gotten money? Now, just to take you back, it was on the 18th of May this very year when Parliament of Uganda approved a budget of financial year 2023-2024 totaling to 52 trillion 0.73. It was an increment, like I said, from the previous. And joining me to discuss this is a man sometimes I refer to as budget. Because most of the times when you talk about budget, he's there. And he's Julius Mukunda, who is the Executive Director of Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, CSBAG. You're most welcome to our studios, and thank you for honoring our invitation, Julius.
Thanks, Chirabo. Always a pleasure to be here to talk about the subject matter that I know each and every Ugandan should be interested and is interested in. Yes.
Well, I don't know if should be is the right word to use, but interested in, I don't know. You know, in those olden, what sometimes we want to refer to as good days, when a budget was going to be read, the entire nation was waiting.
Radio
budget today, we wonder where is people's interest in the budget that is going to be read. Maybe because of a few changes here and there. But Julius, to start with, when we talk about a budget, in a layman's understanding, because we are now discussing a national budget, what is a national budget?
The national budget, you can say, is the, in a layman's language, really, is government proposals and intentions on what it intends to do for the country. It will entail where government is going to get money from in terms of revenues, and also it will entail where how government is going to spend the money it is going to collect from the public. And that's why we say from the taxpayer, because we, Ugandans, the ordinary people, all of us, wherever we are, we contribute to the national budget in one way or the other. Some do it directly from their income, others indirectly through consumption, because that sugar you take has a tax on it already. That water you drink has a tax on it already. So it is really a plan that the government has on how it intends to collect money and spend it for the national development. Yes. So if you are a Ugandan in Chisoro, and you see that road, that nice road from Kavale to Chisoro, if it was not for government planning it and putting it in the budget, it wouldn't be there. If you are, a person who travels a lot, you are going abroad and you are cruising on that, Kampala Entebbe Express Highway, had it not been for the budget, definitely it would not be there. If a beneficiary of PDM, our baby program, which I know, Chirabo, you like so much, just know that had it not been for the budget, that money would not be there. So that's why I say each and every Ugandan, in one way, you are affected by the budget, and you must get interested.
Now, most of the times I've seen civil society budget advocacy group into this process.
Yes.
And today, if there are any mistakes, I'll hold Julius accountable.
No.
In this budget. So what do you do? What is your input? What is your mandate? We know you're from civil society.
So like, we are an organized group of people that decided to get interested in the way government collects money and spends it. Like how they are also interested people on planting trees. They are also interested people on on journalism and media relations, you know, like yourself. So for us, we are on the budget. And therefore, we try to make sure that one of the things we have really worked for is transparency on how things are done. And I want you to get me properly. There is a difference between transparency and accountability. On transparency, I think we have really done a tremendous work because most of the government budget process is transparent. We can participate in it. We can access information on how things are. Government is collecting money and spending it. We are really involved, and this is a departure from the 90s. Where, like you rightly said, by the time the minister is going to read the budget, everybody wants to listen. What is going to happen? Why now you are saying people are not interested? Actually, people are interested because now we know the process. We started by when the January starts, by the way, a new budget process starts. We start by January 1st, we start a new budget. So everybody has got interested in the process throughout. That today, which is previously from other years, we know now. We just only waiting for the budget speech ceremony. We now know what is in the budget. There won't be any new surprises in terms of the budget. So that's what we do. But to do that, we found ourselves that we don't know the budget, so we had to train ourselves and also all our colleagues. We have to do research, analyze it, like information. Somebody says, I want this information. But also we have to engage Parliament, because sometimes there are things government has proposed, and we feel stronger about them and say, no, this can't be. This should be there. And that's how you find us engaged all the time. And if we're not doing a thing, you don't even be inviting me on this station, because you believe that we have something we can contribute to, and we know about it.
Now, Julius, even before you go to the dissecting of what takes what in this budget, Uganda's budget has consecutively been increasing for the last 5 years. Globally, economies are not doing very well.
Yes.
Our budget for financial year 2020 to 2023 was 48.13 trillion. This time we have 52.73 trillion. Now that is an increment, if my mathematics serves me right, of about 9.5% increment. Is it wise for such a time to have our budget increased? Was it a necessary evil? Was it inevitable?
Now, I think it's a choice we make as a nation, and every choice we make has got its own consequences. Increasing a budget wouldn't be a problem if the environment and circumstances are okay. For example, you can increase the budget if you know where you're going to get the money from. Because Uganda, even the United States, they have so much they want to do, but they try to live within, you have to live within your means. As you can see, even the United States, now they are trying, they break the debt ceiling. Every year they are fighting over the debt ceiling because the spending pressures are so much, and yet the revenues are not increasing to match up with the spending pressures. So in Uganda's context, what is happening is that, yes, you've increased it to 52 trillion. Actually, it's going to be 53. Where are you going to get the money from? And what are you going to use that particular money for? Those are the fundamentals we have to debate. Because when you look at that and you say, fine, you want 52, so where are you going to get the money from? Basically, the first thing where you should get the money from should be from your pocket. Even at the household level. If you want to do the things in your house, the first source of income is your pocket. But if your pocket is not enough to finance your adventures or your developments in the household, then you must look for other means. And even for government, that is the case. So URA, Uganda Revenue Authority, has been mandated to collect the money to finance the budget. And URA right now can only finance 29 trillion of the 52 trillion we need. So that's where now you begin to get scared, because so where are you going to get the rest of the money from? Now,
and actually, it is we're assuming that URA will be able to get that 29 trillion, because for the last financial year it was 25 point something, which we've not yet closed there, though they're optimistic that they'll have met that target. But we can't just say they will.
Yeah, because, I mean, but the fact is, these guys have been performing at 95%. If you have a child who comes home with a report of 95%, you know how we grow up.
And the tax base has increased. It's now
your father can slaughter for you, chicken. So it's doing the best job it can in the current circumstances. So it's like you have a cow, you are feeding it, and you can only get 20 liters. But if you want to get 50 liters, there is a miracle you need to perform on that particular cow.
Definitely.
So even with URA, so if you are going to collect 29 and you have 52, then you begin to ask yourself, fine, what's happening? Why can we reduce on the 52 and we come down? Because that's what you can afford to do. In the current circumstances we are in, I can arguably say and comfortably say that getting to 52 million is a bad idea. Why? Because the environment we are in currently is that already the other part, we're going to borrow it. But the borrowing market, our debt levels, we are almost here. So it means, you see, when you are heavily indebted and you go to the bank and they look at you, the chances of you not paying back are very high. So your interest, they put a heavy price on you because you are not able to pay. So the interest goes high. And therefore you find that actually the debt burden has actually increased. So the same thing with Uganda where we are currently is that all that amount of money, we are going to borrow it. But borrowing would not be a problem, but it is that at this particular moment, the debt situation in this country is something that we are all getting worried about.
I was looking at it and I was scared. We are about 86.6 trillion.
Trillion, yes.
That is a debt burden, and you're having a budget of
yes.
The
and
debt
that's
is far
that's
more
why I'm saying that really,
budget.
right now it's something that we need to think about. That this huge budget is going to put extra burden on how we are going to finance our development. And let me tell you why. When you say 52 trillion, by the way, that money, 27 of that is on debt obligations to finance some of our debt.
27 trillion?
Of the 27 trillion. Is that you are going to do, you can't even touch it. You have to be able to finance. There are things that are already there, including our debt obligations. So you are remaining basically with the 25 trillion that you will pay around. Because all the other money, so that's what I'm telling you, that 27 would have done much more for our development. In fact, I wouldn't mind if the budget was even 100 trillion. But considering the fact that half of that right now, entirely half of our budget, we are not going to touch it, puts us in a very precarious situation on how we're going to finance our development. And that's why I say pushing this budget to 52 trillion is not a good idea. We should have remained down, finance the debt, reduce our appetite to spend, postpone some of the big things we wanted to do, and only deal with those that are very critical for our own development.
You've just talked about sources of funding this budget, and when you look into this budget, domestically, we are going to be able to fund 80% of our budget, Julius. And externally, we are looking at only about 20%. Now, this brings me again to ask, we have domestic borrowing, which is not healthy economically for a government to borrow domestically. But we also have external borrowing. Now, when it comes to external borrowing, we have concessional and non-concessional loans. Non-concessional loans are also becoming a problem. Concessional loans are there because, of course, there's profit and all that, short time to pay. Now, these two also are a problem when I look at this budget, because government has to reduce internal borrowing so that you and me and others, interest rates may be low and you can also borrow and do some business. Anyone would love to lend to government because they have a sure deal of getting their money. But with what is happening globally, where those loans we used to get, you begin paying after 10 years, paying at almost negatives interest, are becoming scarce. How do we salvage over this?
So when you talk about domestic borrowing and all that, I mean, URA is going to collect 29 out of 52 trillion. I don't think that is going to come to 80%.
I think this includes the external borrowing as well. Now, on what URA is going to collect, the 29 point something, we are also looking at what we are going to be able to
borrow inside, isn't it?
Borrow inside.
Fine, yes. So, first of all is that when you look at the National Budget Framework paper that came out in January, they had reduced domestic borrowing from 5 trillion to 1.5 trillion. And remember, we were here, we were like, this is the best move. Because now you are sending a signal to the commercial sector, to the financial sector, to tell them that the government is not going to come for your money. Please begin to plan to give out money to the private sector. And you know that private sector actually drives economic development. But that's why I'm telling you that because of these pressures, why I'm telling that this budget 52 years is a very bad idea. Now we have increased that from 1.5, which we had promised to do, to 3 trillion. We have doubled that. Still less than 5 trillion we are for this financial year that we are in. So it means that the chances of interest rates coming down are also very low.
Yes.
That it's going to be high. So private sector needs to brace itself further for high interest payments, which will increase cost of production, might reduce employment, might reduce employment opportunities, and increase the cost of goods and services me and you we consume. So therefore, it means that you are going to go for even external borrowing. Now, for external borrowing, we are looking at numbers here, and we are having external borrowing of 8 trillion, 8.2 trillion. But even external borrowing, we are looking at government. Of course, there is concession and non-concession. Now, the challenge with concession and non-concession is that, remember, our debt levels are high. You getting concessional borrowing, you get more, it comes more stringent, more conditions. So you have to go into the commercial loan. Actually, non-concession, just call it commercial loans. Now, commercial loans, they will charge you 10% and above of interest. They will tell you this loan is funded for 10 years and you have a grace period of 6 months. The other one, which is concessional, will say you have an interest rate of less than 1%, grace period of payment 10 years, and the loan is for 40 years. So you can see how good they are. So you find that now you to access them, they will first come to you and say, please, can you sort your house out? So it becomes a bit more complicated for you to get, and it takes long to negotiate. So, but if you can't get it and you go for non-concessional, then your debt burden increases. Remember, we are going to pay 6 trillion on interest payment. So we had a benchmark of saying our interest payment, a proportion of interest payment to our domestic revenue collection, because you have to get money from your pocket to pay interest, should not be more than 12%. But now it is coming 24% and above. It is doubling that. So which means that we are even breaching some of our debt management strategy benchmarks. So, but also is that this 6 trillion, when it is so huge, it reduces the available resources for you as a government to spend on your people. So when the Katonga bridge breaks down, you will not have money immediately to construct it. Because first call on the budget is your debt obligation. You must first pay the debt before you construct Katonga Bridge. That's how the equation is. And to any Ugandan out there, is that any debt we contract, any loan we get, has a consequence on the availability of the money that we have.
Yes.
And that's why I think the PSST said, yes, the budget has increased, but the money available for me to spend on government program has actually reduced. You see, that's the weird part of it. Because we contracted so much debt during COVID period. And that is affecting the way we are going to progress.
Well, just remind our viewers that you'll be part of this discussion later by simply going to our social media platforms. We have a WhatsApp number that is on your screen. You can send a WhatsApp message, a text message. But we also have our Twitter handle. So you can use any of the two and I'll be able to respond with my guest here to your messages. Now, Julius, when we talk about the budget, the biggest question that comes to my mind is it in tandem with our National Development Plan, now 3? Because I was looking at, that is about 33.6 3 trillion divided in about 20 programs, and human capital development takes the biggest share.
Yes.
Now,
yes,
this
yes.
brought me to wonder, if you're talking about middle state, all that, we have a guiding document, which is the National Development Plan 3 that we are now following.
Yep.
I see this as a mismatch. I stand to be corrected by you economists.
Yes, I think the challenge we have with NDP is that these are aspirations. And I think that's one of the most challenging. There is when you find that a strategic plan of a ministry has a budget almost half of the national budget. So you plan not, you just have all the wishes and you put them there. I think we need to plan depending on the availability of the resources that we have. Because when you look at, for example, I mean, we are looking at that. We are looking at, of course, human capital development, for example, according to NDP 3, was supposed to get 11 trillion. But approved estimates right now is 9.5 trillion. If you look at governance and security, 8 trillion. Approved estimates now are 7.5. Infrastructure and energy, 11 trillion. Approved estimate, 4 trillion. So it tells you that whereas NDP 3 has these very good aspirations, the available resources cannot match that. And I think one of the things we need to do in terms of reforming our national development planning is to actually come down and look at the available sources to implement this NDP 3. Otherwise, we'll keep on making huge promises, but we just cannot fulfill them. That doesn't mean that we are not in line with NDP. We are, but we can't fulfill all what NDP is telling us to do. Because the available resources, the circumstance and the environment we are in is not really taking us there. Which means that even the aspiration of saying we want to be a middle status income and all these things, we need to tune it down and come to reality and say, okay, fine, this is what we can afford to raise. Let us be able to do that. Fundamental also is we know there are things we do that are not in NDP 3. And I think that's where the mismatch comes in. Because if we all said these are the core projects of NDP 3, let us put the money there. Because these core projects, definitely, we have resources for them. But because a team decides now, I don't know how they do it, and then you find that there are other things they are doing, they are not concentrated on what NDP is telling us. That also delays the whole process. So in terms of when we got NDP 4, I think we need to put some very stringent measures, some carrot and stick, to say you cannot implement a project that is not in NDP 4. Because NDP3 is gone. We need to don't cry on that one. It's gone.
Well, still
We need to do that.
moving on another area I want us to concentrate, that is social sector financing. Now, interesting here, combined the budget allocation is 5.72 trillion, of which 88.68% is development expenditure. But interestingly here, you have 11.31% is recurrent expenditure. Now, begin by defining recurrent expenditure, because I want to move very closely with my viewer and what a danger this is, because it means what goes to service, then
Yes.
what goes to salary, and this is more than what you're supposed to deliver to the people.
Yes, but when entirely the whole budget, the whole budget actually, even not the whole budget, you find that we are spending 27% of the budget is development and 32 is recurrent. Of course, you have removed total expenses. Now, recurrent expenditure means the salary we pay you plus the fuel and the other allowances that accompany you. That is, we call it recurrent expenditure. Therefore, in terms of proper budgeting, you want to find that you spend more on development. The development means the schools we build, the roads we build, electricity supply, the boreholes we build. That's where development expenditure is. They are sort of like assets that bring returns to investment. So for our biggest challenge now is that when you have a huge recurrent expense, that is the cost of running a business. So why this huge recurrent expense is because we have a huge government we are running. It is very costly to run a government, this government. And that's why we are saying that we need to restructure not only the MDAs, the agencies, but also the government itself. Because if you go, I was trying to count how many ministers are in the Prime Minister's office, for example. The number is very huge. You want to look at the number of MPs we have in this country. I mean, the number is very huge. You want to look at districts we have in this country. I lost count on that and I put a full stop on it. You want to look at commissions and boards and agencies. It is too huge. Some of these people are duplicating, the services are being duplicated.
You have PISO, KISO, RDC, deputies there, yes. You have GISO, you have, but you cost of administration.
The cost of administration is just too huge. And it takes back to, if you are putting more money in administering, and you have less money to deliver a service, you're not going to grow. Because at the end of the day, it's not how many administration units do you have. An ordinary person who wants to make sure that that health center has medicine, it has the personnel. Now, if those things are not there, and you have all these people who are administering, what are they administering? There is nothing they are administering, because there are no services they're even overseeing. So you want to say, and I think the late Mitara, one time really surprised me when we were arguing about inspection. He said, I really don't understand when people are talking about inspection so much, because he said, I was an inspector he was an inspector of Ankwale or Chigezi region. I said, yes, he would look up in the morning and drive all those regions around and inspect the schools. But even in a district, a municipality needs an inspector of school, a municipality. And then the district also has inspector of schools for the district. So you ask yourself, surely if you're an inspector of a district and you have a municipality, you can pass those schools of a municipality and then you go to the other sub-counties and you leave those schools within the municipality. And that's where I think we go wrong in terms
but
of
then, Julius, one of the things that really interests me is, and this baffled me so much when I was looking through the budget. Of course, we know under decentralization, local governments are very, very vital. Even your favorite, PDM, of course, one time you were very excited, but I see these days the pomp and hype you had, you seem to be a worried creature of a PDM. But interestingly, I was seeing local government budget totaling to 5.39 trillion, of which, listen to this very interestingly, 23% is development expenditure.
Okay. Now you've
And
driven the point home.
77%.
Yes, you've driven the point home.
If almost recurrent and what is ×2. So technically, do we expect?
So when the people are clamoring for
Transformation.
district, people are clamoring for district, this is what we tell them. When Mbarara was a district, isn't it? And it was split into those so many districts. All the money, so if you had one cow managing the whole Mbarara district, now you're going to have 4 cows managing Mbarara districts.
Each has a car, escort,
Everything, a chairperson, a whole council, those are the administrative exercises we tell people. You don't need districts, you need services, you need health centers, you need schools, you need boreholes.
But the narrative is that the more you have this, the more effectiveness it is.
No, it is
in
not
terms
vice
of service
versa.
delivery.
No, you have districts. If you have more of districts, because you say, we have more districts. You are having more police people to police you. And now they're going to police nothing because it is still the same hospital. Have you ever heard that in Mbara they have more Itojo hospitals? Itojo hospital still remain the one. It will still be, they remain the only hospital in that particular region. They are not going to build another one. And of course, this idea of saying each district must have a hospital, each sub-county must have. No, it should be by need. How many pupils are in that particular place? And whether we divide it 10 times, the number of pupils to accept who want a school will still be the same. They are not going to increase in population. So, thank you very much. You've driven my point home that we have so much money to run. The cost of running government is so high. We need to reduce it, considering the fact that we need more money for service delivery than for paying civil servants and the political leadership to administer us. Today, the LC1 chairperson is paid money to run the activities. LC2, LC3, LC5, and his council, all of them are paid. Plus, you have to add on the technocrats. You have those small commissions and bodies within districts. The District Service Commission, the District Land Board, the District Public Accounts Committee. I mean, all expenses go into those particular elements. So I think as we go forward, really, we need to examine ourselves and say, where should we be spending money as a nation to be able to get out of these challenges that we are facing as a country? And of course, you're not forgetting that even the money, that even the little we have, some of it does not reach. Like I was saying, like my PDM, you know, the PDM. You are like, okay, fine, you are eating all of that. Let us
I want us to conclude with that, because time is not so much on our side. Julius and his PDM, our consultant there, very optimistic. I remember you told me this is the magic bullet we've been waiting for.
I mean, it's a good idea, Chirabu, believe me. It's a good idea.
I do agree with you.
It's a good idea. But it is suffering from the same disease like all other government programs, that we are not ready to, to do it in the best way. People down there who are waiting for the money to be eaten. And I mean, you saw in Kitugum, where people literally sit in the office and they share the money for PDM. So for PDM to deliver us, I think we need to put an enforcement mechanism and follow the money to the right. And that's what every Ugandan, wherever you are, please check out the beneficiaries of PDM. Make sure there are no ghosts. Make sure that circle they have registered is within. Make sure the members of the circle are within your community. Let not a Julius from Kampala go and start benefiting from a circle in Isoroti. That is wrong. It should benefit that person from that particular parish. And as long as we don't, as Ugandans, forget about us Ugandans, we must be vigilant to ensure that every shilling that is spent does its work. That's what I can tell you.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Julius Mukunda, who happens to be Executive Director of Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, for your time and, of course, that insight into the budget. Well, we hope that the money that has been put there for development, service delivery, would be used very well for financial year 2023-2024. And we do not have stories of the usual cancer being corruption, where even the little that we have ends up in wrong hands. See you in the next hour. Ruben is next for sports. Good morning.
This is a quick call. I'm almost out of minutes.
Why rush through such important conversations? Airtel Uganda has made it possible for you to call across all networks in Uganda at the best rates with the new Bona voice bundles. Stay connected anytime, anywhere, with minutes valid for calls on all networks. Dial *100*1#. Select voice bundles and select Bona voice bundles today.
Airtel, a reason to imagine.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored